know that the COVID crisis has shined a light on substance use disorder. And with more adults and adolescents than ever before reporting an increase in the use of alcohol or drugs. And on the front lines of this crisis has been the Maplegrove Center right here in West Bloomfield. And with us this morning is Lisa Kaplan with Maplegrove. Thank you so much for being with us. Always.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
First, can we talk about your staff? What have they been going through over the last 2 years? Is it really 2 years? Like 2.5 years, right? It's been a long 2 weeks, right? Remember back in the beginning?
Yeah. So our staff has been there for our patients all along the way. We have master's level clinicians. We have a nursing staff, medical team. We have techs. Everybody who works there, in my opinion, is devoted and committed to the health of our patients and helping people to improve their lives. So I'm very grateful and blessed to work with a very, very committed team.
And with that, Lisa, can I also just kind of say, like, you and your staff, you probably have known what has really just become so public because of the pandemic is this crisis. And we need to start talking about this as it's accepted. Because if I'm someone who's suffering from cancer, I have an outpouring of support. But if I say I'm suffering from mental health issues, which really addiction is tied to, you're shunned.
You're right. Substance use disorder is a mental health disorder. I will say that the stigma against addiction is decreasing over time, but certainly you are right, it still exists. And here's the other issue, Ronnie, family issues. So what family member wants to admit, my son's an alcoholic, my wife is a drug addict? So at Maplegrove, we have programs to support the family, just as we're helping our patients.
And can I say thank you so much? Because when one family member suffers, we know that has that trickle effect through the entire family. And I have personal experience with this, but I also know good friends that have been going through this. And it is such a roller coaster ride for them.
It is. So addiction is a family disease. Everybody is impacted, from the little kids up to the grandparents. If someone loves an addicted person, they're going to be impacted by this disease. So it's really tough for family members to navigate this as well. Many of them do not understand substance use disorders, and they think that their loved one is making a bad choice or poor decisions, and it goes so far beyond choice or decisions. I can tell you, nobody chooses to be addicted. Just like we don't choose to have cancer or we don't choose to have heart disease, nobody chooses to have an addiction. Although on the surface, it appears as though it is a choice, but it's so much deeper than that.
I love that you're talking about that, because it really does start with how we look at it, right? It's the dialogue around it.
Right. So addiction is a disease, recognized as such by the American Medical Association in 1966. So it's not a choice, it's not a character weakness, it's not a criminal mind, and all of us, because we're human, are all at risk of developing a substance use disorder. Of course, it's a highly genetic disease, so if it runs in the family, a person is at an even higher risk, and there's many other risk factors as well. But being human puts us all at risk.
I didn't realize that until recently, talking with a friend, and she was saying how it ran through her family. And then you start Googling and you're looking at this and you understand it a little bit more, right? So with that, though, I feel like Maplegrove, which is right here in the greater West Bloomfield community, you guys have been on the front lines, and you've been screaming this trumpet for so long, but you've been here. Can you talk a little bit more about the services? Because I know, a big concern for so many of these families has to do with the finances.
So we've been around since 1981, and we are insurance-based. We don't take Medicaid and Medicare. However, people who have those insurances can still get help through their local county. In Oakland, it's the Oakland Community Health Network. So there are treatment agencies that can help them. So we do inpatient and outpatient treatment for adults ages 18 and up, and outpatient for adults 18 and up and adolescents 13 to 18. But what I'd really like to talk about is our family programs that we now have virtually every Thursday night from 6 to 9 p.m. We have two programs. One is a skill building class, which are 6 different lectures that rotate that educate families about substance use disorders and how to navigate it in the family. And then we take a break, and then we have what we call our share family support group, where family members can literally speak to one another and offer support and guidance and share experiences. So these programs prior to COVID were in our building twice a week, and now it's once a week on Thursday nights virtually. So anybody who's interested in getting any information about how to join us, and by the way, Ronnie, it's free and no registration. All they need to do is email me at lkaplan, Kaplan, and the number 2 at HFHS, Henry Ford Health System.org. And if they email me asking for information on the family programs, I will email them back with an attachment that tells them how to download WebEx, which is like Zoom. And then there's a link to the skill building class and a link to the family support group. And anybody in our community is welcome.
Can I ask you, Lisa, as well, what's been the response to this? Because I do think virtual, it's one thing to show up in person because it's almost like you're admitting it and there's a time commitment to it. But if I can kind of do it via internet, Zoom, on my phone, maybe I can go to a coffee shop, because we know there's a lot of anxiety surrounding this issue. Are you seeing a greater response because of this?
Yes, our groups are larger than they were when they were in person, in part because we have family members coming from other states. So nobody is, if we were in person, the amount of people who would come because they live within driving distance of Maplegrove is much, much less. Nobody's coming from 2 hours away during rush hour on a Tuesday or Thursday night as we had in the past. So because we're virtual, it has definitely increased our attendance. And there are people who choose not to have their camera on so they can remain anonymous, and that's fine too. We encourage them to turn their camera on, but they don't have to. People can use a fake name if they want. And we only go by first names. So we do protect, and we make an agreement before every program that everything we talk about is confidential, and therefore you don't repeat what you heard. So we make it as safe and as comfortable and as convenient as possible.
That is that in itself, because we know so many people are hesitant to reach out. Maybe they have a certain status in a community or this, that, and the other. They know they need help, but they're worried about the backlash. And so this is so great. And this is a way to jump in, to listen, but also to connect with other families that are maybe going through the same journey, because like you said, this is a family disease.
Right. And what people learn when they come is that they're not alone, that what they're experiencing and what they're feeling is very common. So we normalize the experience and we help them to move on. Typically, people are incredibly angry, and we help them to move on to that, from being angry to developing some skills so that they can be helpful to their loved one. And we teach them how to take care of themselves, which is really important, because when a family struggles with this disorder, the focus is always on the person who's addicted. And what we do is we give permission to our family members to take care of themselves, which many of them have neglected for quite a long time.
I know a family that is struggling with this right now, and I just want to reach out and give you a big hug for saying that, because I know what they're going through. And you know,
Send them my way. Give them my contact information and have them join us. I'd love to have them there.
oh my gosh. So with that, can I just like a broader view? The COVID crisis, we do know that more people have struggled and we've seen the numbers increase. But I think maybe a silver lining coming out of this is it's making this topic more approachable. Are you seeing that on your end from a professional standpoint?
Yes, and I would also say that mental health, many people have admitted that they're struggling with mental health problems like depression and anxiety because of the pandemic, and people have reached out for help. The therapists in private practice, their businesses are booming. So the silver lining of the pandemic is that now we are more open about mental health and substance use problems, and people are more willing and open to receiving help.
That is so great. I know even I have an app on my phone. It reminds me, breathe, take a walk, enjoy nature, like those little mental things that we know to break that cycle, that mental cycle of work. So, Lisa, you are a blessing in our community. We want to say thank you so much for being on, and thank you. And to your team as well for everything you guys do, because I know it's not easy right now.
Well, thank you for promoting us, and send anybody my way whom I can help.